trumpus pareiškimus žiniasklaidai. Kiekvienam pasisakymui skirtos 2 minutės, pasisakymai bus verčiami į anglų kalbą. Dėl laiko stokos žurnalistų klausimams laiko neturėsime.
The Speaker of the Seimas has just met with the Speakers and Deputy Speaker of the said parliaments. Now I open a press brief by the participants of the meeting. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 2 minutes for their intervention. The interventions will be translated into English. Due to the lack of time, there will be no possibility for questions.
O dabar maloniai kviečiame pasisakyti Lietuvos Respublikos Seimo pirmininką Saulių Skvernelį.
Labas vakaras.
I now give the floor to the Speaker of the Seimas, Mr. Saulius Skvernelis.
Mėly kolegos, dar kartą noriu visiems padėkoti, jog šio svarbiom datom esate čia Lietuvoje.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you once again for being here on this important occasion.
Mes turėjome labai produktyvę diskusiją apie situaciją, geopolitinę situaciją Europoje, pasaulyje.
We had a very productive discussion on the geopolitical situation in Europe and around the world.
Džiaugiuosi, kad visos valstybės dar kartą pakartojo parlamentų vadovų vaidmenyje apie tvirtą paramą Ukrainai.
I'm very glad that the heads of parliaments representing their countries reiterated their strong support for Ukraine.
Mes girdėjome beveik iš kiekvienos valstybės atstovo pasisakymą. Mes Ukrainą rėmėme ir remsime, kiek galėsime ir kiek reikės.
We heard from the representatives saying that we have been supporting Ukraine, we continue to do that, and we will continue to do that in the future as much as it is needed.
Aš šiandien noriu akcentuoti priimtą bendrą pareiškimą.
Today I want to stress a joint statement that we have adopted.
Tūkstančiai ukrainiečių karo belaisvių šiandien laikomi nežmoniškom sąlygom Rusijos kalėjimuose.
Thousands of Ukrainians, prisoners of war, are now being held in Russian captivity.
Kurie patiria kasdienius kankinimus, patyčias.
They face daily tortures and bullying.
Ukrainos kariai, kurie praėjo tą pragarą, pasakoja, kad per laikotarpį nelaisvės, nuo kelių mėnesių iki 2 metų, jie neturėjo galimybės susitikti su tarptautinėm organizacijom, kurios užtikrina Ženevos konvencijos laikymasi ir Ženevos konvencijoje numatytų sąlygų karo belaisviams laikymasi.
Ukrainian soldiers kept in captivity from months to 2 years have said in their accounts that they had no possibility to see the representatives of international organizations that ensure the implementation of international conventions and Geneva conventions.
Smerkdami tokį Rusijos požiūrį, mes norime priminti šio pareiškimų pasaulio ir Europos valstybėmis, kad nepamiršome ukrainiečių karių esančių nelaisvėje ir reikalaujame, kad jiems būtų sudarytos visos sąlygos susitikti su tarptautinėm organizacijom ir reikalaujame iš Rusijos, kad būtų besąlygiškai laikomasi Ženevos konvencijoje nustatytų karo belaisvių teisių ir apsaugos.
By condemning the situation, we want to remind the countries that we have not forgotten the Ukrainian prisoners of war, and we demand that the access is given for the international humanitarian organizations to these prisoners of war, and that the Geneva and other conventions on the prisoners of war be upheld.
Ir reikalaujame, kad karo belaisviai būtų kuo greičiau paleisti į savo gimtąją šalį. Ir taip pat turime nepamiršti, kad daugybė ir civilių žmonių, moterų, vaikų šiandien prievarta yra laikomi Rusijos federacijos teritorijoje neteisėtai.
We demand the swift release of those prisoners of war to their home country. We should not forget that other civilians other Ukrainian civilians, including children and women, are being kept against their will in Russian captivity.
Dar kartą dėkoju visiems kolegams už bendrą pareiškimą, supratimą ir tikrai tvirtai remsime ukrainiečių teisingą kovą dėl savo laisvės ir nepriklausomybės ir nepamiršime nei vieno žmogaus, kuris toje kovoje ar kariauja fronte, ar gyvena taikų gyvenimą, ar tiesiog yra šiuo metu neteisėtai sulaikytas priešo teritorijoje.
I want to thank you once again for this joint statement and for the support you have shown. We will continue supporting Ukraine in its fight for freedom and independence, and we will not forget any person, no matter where he or she is, whether fighting on the front lines, living his or her life, or being kept in captivity.
Ačiū.
Thank you.
Dėkojame. O dabar pasisakyti kviečiame Estijos Respublikos Rygikogų pirmininką Lauri Husar.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Mr. Lauri Husar, President of the Rygikogų of the Republic of Estonia.
Honorable Speaker, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first congratulate the Lithuanian people from Estonian people on coming day of re-independence. It had been a miracle 35 years ago to establish the independence and sovereignty of our countries. And it happened because of this, that actually we never lost the faith into our country, into the independence of our country. And during the 50 years of occupation, we always had the desire to be free. And we are standing for the free world together here also today. We are standing for the principles and virtues of the free world also today, and we are standing strongly behind Ukraine as they are fighting their freedom war against Russia. Against Russia, which tries to re-establish the Soviet Union in its borders. Against Russia, which doesn't accept anything of the free world's principles, against the Russia which actually doesn't want to have us as a free nations. And therefore, we have to stand strongly behind Ukraine, and we are doing it. We are the countries which is supporting the most Ukraine per capita. And we are continuing to do that until the very victorious end of Ukraine, when the peace will be signed according to the conditions and rules of Ukraine. And therefore, I'm really thanking my colleagues because of today's very fruitful discussions on convincing each other and international community and all of us in this, how important it is to stand for our values, to stand for the principles, to stand for the independence and sovereignty of the countries like Ukraine. I thank you very much. I'm very dedicated to this, that we should give for Ukraine everything we can. We have to give the military support. We have to look for this, how to actually give Ukraine also the Russian frozen assets, as there is 300 million euros in Europe, Russian frozen assets, which we could use in helping Ukraine in this brutal war as a military aid. So therefore we are really focused also on that, how to speed up the processes. And of course we have to think about how to raise the cost of aggression for Russia. So therefore we have really to focus also on new sanctions against Russia, and also we have to think about it, how to help Ukraine also in the processes when they are in the path in coming to European Union and how to speed up the negotiations processes with Ukraine. This is our responsibility for building peaceful and prosperous Europe and world, and we are ready for this. Therefore, I thank you once more, and I wish for Lithuania really a wonderful re-independence day.
Dėkojame, o dabar pasisakyti kviečiame Latvijos Respublikos Saimos pirmininkę Daigą Mėrinę.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Ms. Daiga Mėrinė, Speaker of the Sejm of the Republic of Latvia.
Dārgie kolēģi, godājumie klātesošie, man ir patiesi prieks būt Lietuvā kopā ar mūsu brāļu tautu, mūsu lielākajiem draugiem reģionā svinēt Lietuvas neatkarību. Sirsnīgi sveicu jūs visus neatkarības dienā.
Dear colleagues, distinguished guests, it is a great pleasure to be in Lithuania and to celebrate Lithuania's independence together with our brotherly nation, our greatest friends in the region. I sincerely congratulate you.
Šodien ar kolēģiem pārunājām gan tālāku atbalstu Ukrainai, uzklausot mūsu drauga Ruslana Stefančuka jaunākos vēstījumus, gan arī Eiropas kopējo pieeju drošības jautājumos.
Today, having listened to the latest news from our friend Ruslan Stefanchuk, my colleagues and I discussed both further support for Ukraine and a common European approach to security issues.
Mūsu atbalsts Ukrainai paliek nesatricināms un tikai palielināsies – militārs, humanitārs un diplomātisks.
Our support for Ukraine remains unwavering and will only increase. This is military, humanitarian and diplomatic support.
Šobrīd ir ļoti svarīgi Ukrainai palīdzēt panākt tieši ar finansiālu palīdzību.
Today, it is important to provide financial assistance to Ukraine.
Un tāpēc liels paldies visiem, kas var vēl joprojām pārdalīt savus jau esošos budžeta līdzekļus un sniegt Ukrainai šo finansiālo palīdzību tieši šobrīd un tagad.
So we sincerely thank everyone who is able to reallocate their budget resources to provide this very necessary assistance to Ukraine right away.
Un mēs redzam, ka Eiropa ir saņēmusi augstu dušas devu.
Europe has experienced a cold shower
No mūsu strateģiskā partnera.
and this shock has come from our strategic partner.
Un tas mums ir licis sarosīties, ļoti būtiski un nozīmīgi pārskatīt savas tuvākā laika prioritātes un arī tālākā laika prioritātes.
This has roused us and made us reevaluate both our short-term and long-term priorities.
Tas ir devis mums iespēju domāt par to, kādā veidā mēs stiprināsim savu Eiropas aizsardzību.
It has given us the opportunity to think about how we will reinforce our own security in Europe.
Tas mums ir licis uzņemties līderību.
It has made us take leadership.
Un liels paldies tām valstīm, kas ir jau uzņēmušās līderību un jau gatavo sarunas par mieru.
And we sincerely thank all of the countries that have already taken on this leadership role and are working on peace negotiations.
Un varbūt šeit es gribu atzīmēt, ka mēs bieži lietojam terminu taisnīgs miers. Es gribu uzsvērt, ka ir svarīgi runāt par tādiem miera nosacījumiem, par kuriem piekrīt tikai un vienīgi Ukraina.
We speak a lot about just peace, but we have to understand here that a peace is possible only on the conditions that are acceptable to Ukraine.
Mēs runājam par tādu vienošanos, kas Ukrainai un tās tautai ir pieņemama visos aspektos, sākot ar teritoriālo nedalāmību un beidzot ar drošības garantijām.
This would be an agreement that is acceptable to the Ukrainian people in all of its aspects, from territorial integrity to security guarantees.
Un vienlaikus mēs šodien arī runājām par to, ka mums ir jāturpina sankcijas pret agresoru valsti Krieviju.
We also discussed the need to continue sanctions against the aggressor country.
Tāpat beidzot ir jāsaņem drosme un beidzot jāsaņem drosme un jāpieņem lēmums, ko mēs darām visi kopā ar Krievijas konfiscētiem iesaldētiem līdzekļiem.
And we also have to finally work up the courage to take a final decision on what we are to do with the frozen Russian assets.
Tā ir milzīga naudas summa, vairāk kā 300 miljārdi, kas arī Ukrainai būtu nepieciešama tieši šajā momentā.
This is an immense amount of money, more than 300 billion, which Ukraine dearly needs right now.
Varbūt tieši ar šo finansējumu varētu Ukraina beidzot iegūt šo lūzamo punktu un panākt to, ko vēlas uzvaru pār Krieviju.
And this funding could be the resource that Ukraine needs to achieve a turning point in its move towards a victory against Russia.
Un tas mums ir devis iespēju arī pašiem pārskatīt gan savus izdevumus, gan stiprināt aizsardzību. Un vēlreiz gribu atgādināt, mēs esam kopā ar Ukrainu, līdz tiešām Ukraina panāks vai nu miera līguma noslēgšanu vai uzvaru.
And this has also been an opportunity for us to reassess our own spending and reinforce our own defense, and we will continue to stand with Ukraine until a just peace or victory is achieved.
Un vēlreiz, brīvība mums ir dota, bet nosargāt viņu, man liekas, ir pats grūtākais. Vienmēr to atcerēsimies, ka ikdienas ar savu rīcību un darbiem mēs stiprinam mūsu valsti, mūsu identitāti un vienlaikus cīnamies par savu brīvību. Paldies!
And our freedom is something that we are given, but we have to safeguard it every single day. With every action, every decision we take, we reinforce our own security and our own freedom, and thank you very much.
Dėkojame, o dabar tarti žodį kviečiame Lenkijos Respublikos Seimo pirmininką Šimon Holovnę.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Mr. Szymon Hołownia, Marshal of the Sejm of the Republic of Poland.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. First of all, I want to say how glad I am that this format I proposed over a year ago is still vivid. And as we met for the very first time in Białystok, in the group of colleagues from Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Ukraine. Right now we are joined by Jussi Halla-aho from Finland. There is our friend from Iceland for the first time. We've met in Tartu. Right now we are meeting in Vilnius. And it's so good that in this complicated world, in this world of so many challenges, we are still trying to find ways to each other. We are trying to build not only the alliances of the states, but alliances of the parliaments, of the societies which parliaments represent. And it's a good sign for the future. That's very good that we are here together, sending to the world two strong messages. The first is, of course, that we want to congratulate our Lithuanian friends and Lithuanian nation for the reason of the 35th anniversary of the restoration of the independence of our dear neighbor. It was a great thing for all of us in this part of Europe, because we show to the world that values will always prevail, that values are always the most important fundament for politics, for human being, for being together, for cooperation, for all of our reality. And the second thing is that we are meeting here on this very important occasion to talk about geopolitical challenges, about strategies we should create, we should enforce in this very challenging situation. First of all, of course, there should be no doubt that we should support Ukraine, because for my country, and I believe that not only for my country, is a reason of state. Safe, free, independent Ukraine is a reason of state for Poland, and I believe for many countries in our part of Europe. We are doing, of course, whatever we can to support Ukraine with more and more military aid, with diplomatic assistance, with trying to persuade anyone, anywhere, that Ukraine should be at the table when the peace process started, and there should be no treatment, no treaty, no ceasefire without Ukraine showing its position, presenting its arguments. It's obvious in this part of Europe, knowing what happened in Munich, what happened in Yalta, what happened in so many occasions where bigger and stronger wanted to decide above the heads of the smaller. It should never, never ever happen again. Right now, the situation in NATO, the transatlantic situation, leads us to the conclusion that we should take more responsibility for our own safety. There is no need to be angry at new American administration because they are just doing what is good, in their opinion, to American voter, to American taxpayer. We should take our part of responsibility right now. Our Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, said it boldly. How is it like that, 500 million of Europeans are begging 300 million of Americans to protect them against 140 million of Russians who are not able to cope with 40 million of Ukrainians for 3 years? We should take our part of responsibility right here, right now. On the national level, we are spending 5% of GDP. You know it, this year, the next year, and probably in upcoming years as well. I've heard, and I really appreciate that Lithuania decided to spend 5-6% of GDP in upcoming years for its own defense. We are the first European country who decided to redirect part of the National Recovery Fund to National Defense Fund, 8 billion euros. This is the decision from the very last week, and we will be building, producing whatever we can. But we need this cooperation, and this is the second side of the medal. We need this cooperation of the European level, because of course we can do right now we can do what we can do with our American allies. Sometimes it looks like that the community of values, it's not so important to our allies from here and there. We are concentrated more on business, on prices, not on values. But what can we do with this? We can conclude that the keys to European stability and safety and the future of Ukraine, it's not only in the United States, it's in Europe as well, mostly in Europe. Frozen assets mentioned by my colleagues. Frozen assets are not in America, we are discussing right now. They are in Belgium. We need decision of our Belgian friends, of our French friends, of the new political power, new government of Germany. We should talk to them, and it's much closer and much easier for us all to talk to our German friends, to persuade our French friends, to discuss with our Belgian counterparts than to go to America. We should stop these pilgrimages to America. We should concentrate on pilgrimaging here in Europe, inside Europe, to solve the problems here that should be solved. Because Ukraine is not asking us for peacekeeping forces. They are asking us for money and for armaments. We should see it and we should do it. There is a time for new leadership in Europe. New leadership, responsible leadership for the common safety. That's why we will be supporting, as a presidency right now in the European Council, every form of strengthening our internal European NATO. We will be asking our friends from outside European Union, like Norway, like Turkey. This week our Prime Minister is going to Turkey to talk with President Erdogan and other officials. We want to create new architecture of safety, more Europe concentrated in this situation we are facing right now in the world. Let's have the best possible relations with the United States. But when the freedom of ourselves and Ukraine, our beloved neighbor, is at stake, we should think, in common, together, what can we do to show our people all along Europe that not Trump is the biggest enemy of Europe right now, not Zelensky, named by someone or some other people as a dictator. He's not a dictator, he's a hero. They are not enemies of Europe. There is only one enemy of Europe, and it's Putin. And we should do whatever is possible for the sake of the next generation to stop Putin where he is and to make him lose this war. I'm really grateful for my colleagues, for Saulius Skvernelis, for all the colleagues from Baltic states, from Finland, from Iceland, especially my dear friend Ruslan Stefanchuk from Ukraine, not only for our common work in last months, in last year, but also for your friendship. Because I have this feeling that we can count on each other. And it's much more important than any treaty we can sign. Right now, it's a time for us in Europe to stay closer, to be together. And our values will prevail. You will see. I can bet on it. We will prevail with our values, on which European Union, European community, and the peace in Europe was founded. Thank you so much. Saulius gave me 15 minutes, and I think I'm pretty close to this limit.
Dėkojame. Pasisakyti kviečiame Ukrainos aukščiausiosios rados pirmininką Ruslan Stefanchuk.
Thank you. I now invite Mr. Ruslan Stefanchuk, Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine.
Thank you, dear friends, dear Saulius, dear my colleagues, friends, speakers, and President of the Parliaments. First of all, I'm here to say the one main word: thank you. Thank you for all of you, for Lithuanian people, for your President, for your Parliament, for your government, for all your support that Ukraine have. The second one, I am here to congratulate all of you with restoration independence anniversary, 35th anniversary. And the third that I want to tell you that today is 1,111 days of full-scale invasion, 4 ones. And for me, it's a big privilege being here and talk about the Ukraine, about the future of Europe. And I want a special thanks to the Saulius that you gathered us here and you hosted us. Because I think that now it's not an issue of Ukraine. It's an issue of all civil society in Europe. As I said, we can't change the geographic, but together we can change the book of history for the future. Because just together we demonstrate our unity. And yes, Ukraine needs your support more. We need your military support, financial support, political support, humanitarian support. But I totally agree with your President, Nausėda, who wrote on the Twitter the very great words: Ukraine, you never walk alone. Thank you once again. Thank you for all of you. Thank you for Lithuania. Thank you for all your country. Thank you. Ukraine always have you in our hearts. Thank you.
Dėkojame. Pasisakyti kviečiame Suomijos Respublikos Eduskunta pirmininką Jussi Halla-aho.
Thank you. I give the floor to Mr. Jussi Halla-aho, Speaker of the Eduskunta of Finland.
Mieli draugai, 35 years ago, the Finnish people followed with great interest and enthusiasm the events in the Baltic states and the courage of the Lithuanians, Latvians, and Estonians. And it is a great pleasure and honor for me to be here 35 years later to celebrate this anniversary. For obvious historical and geographic reasons, we understand very well that a Russian success or victory in Ukraine would make the world a much more dangerous place for all the small neighbors of Russia. And therefore, there is a full consensus in the Finnish parliament and also among the Finnish population in general on the need to keep supporting Ukraine as much as we can for as long as it's needed and in any way that we can. Regarding the recent developments in the United States, I very much agree with what my Polish colleague, Mr. Hołownia, just said. We shouldn't focus so much on what the Americans are saying or doing. We should be much more concerned about our total reliance and dependence on the Americans. We must start taking more responsibility for our own defense and also for supporting Ukraine. The real problem is not that the Americans might be doing less in the future. The real problem is that we are not doing enough. The Nordic countries and the Baltic countries are doing their fair share relative to the sizes of their economies and to the sizes of their populations, but we are all small countries and we need the big players in NATO and in the European Union to do much more. What we can do is we can set an example and we can talk to our European partners and do our best to convince them that it's also in everybody's interests to help Ukraine prevent a Russian success in this war. Thank you very much, and thank you to my esteemed Lithuanian colleague, Mr. Skvernelis, for inviting us to this event.
Dėkojame ir pasisakyti kviečiame Islandijos Altingo pirmojo pavaduotoją Bryndis Haraldsdottir.
Thank you, and I give the floor to Ms. Bryndis Haraldsdottir, First Deputy Speaker of the Altingi of Iceland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to be here with you today, and I want to say to the Lithuanian people, congratulations with your anniversary tomorrow. 35 years ago, the Lithuanian people were brave to fight to rebuild their independence. Today, Ukraine is fighting to keep their independence. We in Iceland, we understand it very well. I totally agree with all my colleagues here. We will stand with Ukraine as long as it takes. And I want, because we have a lot of press here today, also to mention this joint statement that was noted before. I have had the opportunity to meet with Ukrainian armors who were prisoners of war in Russia. And their stories are terrible. I hope you will all continue to talk about Ukraine, talk about different aspects of this war, and I also hope that this news get out of this region to the whole of Europe and to the United States of America. Thank you.
Dėkojame visiems už pasisakymus. Spaudos konferenciją baigėme. Gražaus vakaro.
Thank you, all the speakers, and now we close the press brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Saulis, for your hospitality. You're welcome.